You ever walk into a room and without even saying a word, people glance your way and suddenly the vibe shifts, not in a bad way necessarily, but in a way that makes certain people uncomfortable, like something just got exposed, like a light got turned on in a room where others were trying to hide. That light is you, and it's not because you're arrogant or loud or trying to take up space in a toxic way. It's because there's something rare and quiet and powerful about you that toxic people cannot tolerate. And the craziest part is, you probably never even noticed it. See, toxic people feed off uncertainty, manipulation, and masks. They thrive when the people around them are confused about who they are, or when they're desperate for approval, or when they bend just to be accepted. But you don't play that game. You walk with a kind of grounded peace that says, I know who I am, and I don't need your validation to keep standing tall. And that right there is rare, it's powerful, and to the wrong kind of person, it's intimidating. Not because you're mean, but because you are real in a world that's constantly trying to be everything but that. You don't sugarcoat, but you're not cruel either. Your honesty isn't about hurting others, it's about honoring yourself. You say no when you mean no, and you don't say yes just to keep the peace. If the peace costs you your dignity, then it's not peace at all, and you know that toxic people hate that. They hate boundaries. They hate when you're clear about what you accept and what you don't, because it leaves no room for manipulation. They can't twist your words because you don't play verbal chess. You speak directly, calmly, maybe even quietly, but with unshakable firmness, and that scares them. You've probably had moments where you were told you were too much or too quiet or too deep or too intense, but the truth is, those were just projections. They weren't actually about you. They were about how your energy made them feel. Your calmness called out their chaos, your clarity exposed their confusion, and your self-respect reflected their lack of it. And instead of facing that, they turned it into a story about how you're intimidating. What they don't understand is that you weren't born trying to make people feel small. You just refused to shrink. And in a world that constantly tells people to water themselves down, you are the ocean. You didn't fit into their cup, so they blamed you for overflowing it. And you know what? That's okay. Because the ones who matter, the ones who are real, who are growing, who are healing, they're not afraid of your light. They're drawn to it. They find comfort in it because it gives them permission to shine too. You've probably found yourself walking away from people who drained you without ever having to yell or beg or create drama. You just quietly stepped back, and that silence said everything it said. I'm not here to fix you. I'm not here to fight for scraps of respect. I'm not here to tolerate what dims my soul. And the thing is, most toxic people don't expect that. They're used to people fighting back or folding. But you did neither. You just left. And that's a power most people don't know how to handle. You intimidate toxic people, not because you're aggressive, but because you're at peace. And nothing is more disruptive to a chaotic person than someone who won't join their storm they want you to react to. Defend to explain, but you don't. You let their noise echo into silence, and that silence speaks louder than any argument ever could. And maybe you've wondered why relationships, friendships, even workspaces sometimes feel heavy, like you always have to be the strong one, like your presence unsettles people who don't even know you well. It's not your imagination, and it's not a flaw. It's your energy. It's the quiet strength that walks into the room before you do. It's the integrity that can't be faked. It's the depth that can't be distracted by surface-level nonsense. And most importantly, it's the love you carry for yourself that toxic people cannot stand because they haven't yet learned how to carry it for themselves. You don't ask for attention, but you get it anyway, not because you're loud, but because you're authentic. And authentic people glow differently. You have this way of making shallow waters feel uncomfortable because you're deep and still and wise. And when you speak, you don't speak to impress. You speak to connect, to awaken, and to remind people of what they forgot about themselves. Sometimes the rarest traits aren't loud. They're not flamboyant. They're not even visible to the eye. They're felt in the way you carry yourself, in the way you respect your time, in the way you treat others with kindness, but never at the expense of your truth. That's what makes you rare. That's what toxic people can't understand. They see kindness as weakness, but with you, they learn otherwise, because your kindness has teeth, your love has boundaries, and your presence has standards. You don't fear solitude because you've made peace with yourself, and when someone has made peace with themselves, they no longer accept chaos from others. You've been through things that cracked you wide open, but instead of breaking you, it refined you. It gave you compassion, but also discernment, and now you see people for who they really are and not just who they pretend to be. And the more grounded you've become, the more you've started attracting two kinds of people, those who are inspired by your growth, and those who are threatened by it. And those who are threatened by it, you let people reveal themselves, and you adjust accordingly. And that maturity, that grace, that self-respect is foreign to the toxic mind because they live in a world of blame, drama, and control, but you live in truth. You might have walked alone at times because of this, but solitude never made you bitter. It made you clearer. It made you clearer and made you softer in the right ways and stronger in the ways that matter. And every time someone left or you walked away, it wasn't rejection. It was redirection toward people and spaces that align with your energy. You've probably heard things like, "You're too picky," or "too guarded," or "too different." But the truth is, you're just aware. You're not playing the same games others are playing. You're not interested in performing or pretending or pleasing. You're here to grow, to love, to build, to protect your peace, and anyone who sees that as a threat is simply not ready for the kind of connection you bring. You don't argue with people who misunderstand you because you've learned that some people only listen to respond, not to understand. And you no longer entertain that. You save your energy for people who speak the same emotional language, who value depth and honesty and self-awareness. And the beauty of all this is that you don't even have to try to be intimidating. You just are, by existing as your full self in a world that constantly rewards the fake. Your truth will always rattle someone's illusion, and while that might cause friction at first, it will eventually draw the right people closer, the ones who see your strength and feel safe, not scared, who see your boundaries and feel respect, not rejection. So, if you've ever wondered why certain people act strange around you, distant, defensive, dismissive, understand that it might not be about something you did, but about something you represent. You represent what they haven't faced yet, what they're not ready to be, what they haven't healed. And that's not your burden. To carry your presence speaks volumes. Even in silence, your heart carries wisdom. Beyond your years, and your soul carries the kind of fire that warms the right people and burns away the wrong ones. And as you keep walking in that light, remember, the world doesn't need more people who fit in. It needs more people who show up as they truly are. And that's exactly what you're doing. You're not intimidating because you're harsh. You're intimidating because you're healing, because you're honest, because you've chosen to rise instead of shrink, because you love deeply without losing yourself, and because you've made peace with your scars instead of hiding them. And that kind of energy will always challenge the ones who are not ready to do the same, and it will also inspire the ones who are. So keep being exactly who you are, not just because it's rare, but because it's real. And in a world where so many wear masks, your truth is not just refreshing, it's necessary. And the people who are meant for you will never be intimidated by your strength. They'll be grateful for it. And they'll meet you there, right where you are standing, in your power, grounded in peace, and overflowing with light that can't be dimmed.